Well, we wanted to show you this little video about core strategy before you jump into doing your business plan. Core strategy is probably the single most important thing you're going to do. We see more businesses that get into trouble or fail because they don't understand core strategy or they didn't have a clear strategy when they started. Core strategy is important because it sets a framework for how you're going to compete, and it also sets a framework for how your managers are going to manage the business. Here's a simple way to think about what a profitable business is. It's the volume of units that you're selling times the profit margin you're making on each one of those units. So if you had 10 units and you made $10 profit margin, your business would make $100. Every business falls within that formula. Well, if that's true, then we can draw this little diagram, and that is a vertical axis that starts out with low volume running up to high volume, and a horizontal axis running from low profit margin over to high profit margin. That creates 4 quadrants in which all businesses operate. Let's take a look at the upper left-hand quadrant, and that is a high volume, high profit margin business. This is the best of all worlds. This is a perfect world. This is we're making 1 million things, and we're making $1 million on each one of those things, and our company's making $1 trillion. The reality is that quadrant is not very sustainable, because if you ever found a business like that, you're going to find a ton of competitors the next day. We call it gold rush country. It would be like finding gold in a creek, and you're going to wake up the next morning and people are going to be camped all up and down the stream looking for that same gold that you found. So let's go down in the lower right-hand quadrant and look at that type of business. That's a low volume, low profit margin types of business. This is, we're only making one thing and we're only making $1 profit on that thing, and our business is only netting $1. That doesn't make any sense. This is Death Valley when you think about it. The joke would be, we're not making very much on the things that we're making, but don't worry about it because we're not selling any anyway. So let's take a look at the other 2 quadrants. In the upper right-hand corner is the high volume, low profit margin quadrant. This would be like Walmart. You sell a lot of things, but maybe only making 1 or 2% on what you sell. So this would be a case where we sell 100,000 things and we're only making $1, but the business is making $100,000. That is a quadrant that businesses can operate in. In the lower left-hand corner is the specialty or niche quadrant. This is a case where we're not selling a lot, but our profit margins are pretty high. So in this particular case, we're selling maybe 100 items, but we're making $1,000 on each one of them. So again, the business is making $100,000, just like the other quadrant. But we're making it a different way in this quadrant. We're making it with high profit margins, not in volume. A lot of times businesses will come to us and they will be in the commodity quadrant and they won't realize it. You can win in the commodity quadrant. You can certainly run a business in that quadrant, but you have to do it like Walmart does. You have to be willing to get big and to buy in great quantities and to put in those systems that Walmart uses that makes them very efficient and to drive those costs down, because that's how you win in that quadrant. Most of the time, we recommend businesses look at the niche quadrant. A lot of times businesses come to us and they are a commodity by nature. But it is entirely possible to carve niches out of commodities. This little example is chiropractors. If you stop and think about it, most chiropractors offer pretty much the same service. But it is possible to carve niches out of that. So for example, you have chiropractors that specialize in sports and in workers' compensation and in pregnancy and in other kinds of specialties that are out there. So they take a commodity business and carve out niches in there, which then allows them to compete without a lot of competitors. Let's take the example of restaurants. Restaurants serving generic American food pretty much are commodity businesses. But it's possible to carve out all kinds of niches within the restaurant business. So for example, you might have fondue restaurants or Asian fusion restaurants or barbecue restaurants. And then you can carve out niches within the barbecue world. So now you've got Kansas City smoky barbecue and Texas spicy and North Carolina sweet barbecue, and on and on and on. So let's talk for a moment about what this means for your managers. If you are in a commodity business like Walmart, your primary objective is to get your prices down. You can't differentiate the product. You can't say, I have something different from somebody else, because I don't. That's the definition of a commodity. What I have is exactly what somebody else has. So what your managers have to do is to get the price down, because that's the only thing that customer has a choice in. He's looking at, do you sell Tide soap, and you sell Tide soap, and yours is $1 cheaper. It's a short conversation. Thank you very much. I'll take the $1 cheaper. So if that's how you're going to compete in that quadrant, what your managers have to focus on is getting the price down. And to get the price down, you got to get the cost down. So every week, when you call your managers together, you're going to want to know, what did you do to get expenses down? Did you get us bigger quantity discounts? Did you figure out some more efficient way to do what we're doing? Did you somehow drive down the costs in our business? Because that's how we're going to stay alive. I can guarantee you that's what the Walmart managers do when they meet every week. They talk about how they get the expenses down. On the other hand, if you're a manager in a specialty business, this is what you focus on. How do we make ourselves different from other people? Because now we're no longer a commodity. We offer something that other people don't offer, and our customers want it. And so we can keep our profit margins up because we're the only people that have it, and the reason is that we're an innovative company. So now, if I run a specialty kind of business and I bring my managers in every week, the question I'm going to ask them is, how did you open up a gap between us and our competitors? What did you bring new? What did you innovate? What is it that makes us more different this week than we were last week? So let's go back and review right quick, and then we'll go back to the business plan. The first and most important thing you're going to do is make a core strategy decision. And since all businesses can be described in the simple formula of profit times volume, then it creates 4 quadrants. And as we talked about, 2 of those quadrants are not sustainable. The business where you make a lot of profit and you're selling a lot of things is going to draw competitors very quickly. The business where you're not making very much profit and you don't have very much volume is, what's the point of being in that business? That's a death valley. So the 2 quadrants you end up in are a commodity quadrant, where you can make it on volume because you don't have very much profit margin, or you can be a niche business where you can keep your profit margins high but you don't have very much volume. So at this point, stop and think about your own business and make a decision about your core strategy. Are you going to be a niche, or are you going to be a commodity? Once you make that decision, then we're ready to jump into the business plan.